All righty. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion on supplier diversity and the impact that large nonprofits have on diverse businesses. We're so happy that you could join us today. I just want to take care of a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions for the panelists, we want to ask that you type those questions in the Q&A function. So all you have to do is click the Q&A and type your question into the open field. And if there's time, the moderator will ask those questions towards the end of the panel. If we don't have time to answer those questions, then we'll be sure to answer those questions and post those questions on the intranet so that you can have access to those. So welcome to our discussion on supplier diversity and how large nonprofits impact diverse businesses. We're hosting this event in recognition of Philadelphia's 36th Annual Minority Enterprise Development Week. The purpose of this panel is to introduce supplier diversity, PHMC's supplier diversity program to staff, discuss why this is important for diverse businesses, and why this is important to PHMC. PHMC's commitment to supplier diversity starts at the very top with our President and CEO, Richard Cohen. He's challenged our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Governance Committee, our procurement and contract services to work together to make what's already a strong program even better. So I couldn't think of a better way to kick this program off than to have Richard give us some opening remarks. Richard?
Thanks, Marlon. I really appreciate it. And I should just say, I really appreciate all the work that Celeste, Marlon, Michael, our council are doing in the DEI work. This isn't a short-term or new focus of our work or our commitment to it. It's long-standing, and we're just redoubling our efforts to make sure that we do the best work possible. And supplier diversity is one important part of our DEI effort that our whole team is really focused on. So huge thanks to the team for all they do on that and our commitment to it. I'm really excited to have each of you join us today. And that's really a gift of your time to us as we talk about this important issue and talk about how proud PHMC is in participating in minority enterprise development and this particular week by hosting today's panel. Also want to thank the panelists. These are all really important people in the work that we do and really appreciate their being with us today. In the context of PHMC's diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy, supplier diversity is a critical component. And as I said earlier, it's been a major part of what we do for many years. And we're trying to do better and better. We don't want to rest on any laurels. We want to do better as we move forward. Given the size and the scope of PHMC, we have a real opportunity to enhance systemic change across our region. And supplier diversity and inclusive buying practices are important ways to support this effort. And we are going to do better and better in this work going forward. Inclusive procurement, which is what we're here to talk about today, delivers a broader benefits across our communities. And it's really important in building the strength of minority businesses across our community. This work generates economic opportunity for small business owners that may otherwise be overlooked in their work. A rich and robust supplier diversity program promotes innovation, expands an organization's procurement channels, and creates competition. And it's the right thing to do in every way. And for PHMC, it helps strengthen what we do by working with a portfolio of outstanding partners in the work that they do, some of which is exemplified in our panel today. And really the bottom line of all of this is pretty simple. It's the right thing to do with the right folks. As a public health agency, we fully understand racism is a public health disease and one that we need to do something about. It has to be a priority. We have to focus on that, and this work, we believe, helps us in that process. Great thanks to Mike Pearson, the former PHMC board chair and a member of our PHMC Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Governing Council for moderating today's discussion, and to each of our panelists for graciously agreeing to participate. Just a quick thing on Michael. Michael, as board chair, helped us deal with these issues for the past 4 or 5 years in an incredible way And I personally want to thank him for all the work that he's done with us to get us in the right place and to have us moving forward in our commitment to this work. And I assure each of you, we are deeply committed to this work. We think we're doing a really good job now, but we're planning on doing a much better job going forward. We're going to measure how we're doing. We're going to share how we're doing. We're going to let people know our commitment, and we're going to work with you folks in trying to do that. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Marlon Williams to talk through our supplier diversity program at PHMC and how we manage this process. Again, thanks, Marlon, and thanks to all of you for being on the call today.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for your vision as well as your leadership. So I want to talk just for a few minutes about supplier diversity at PHMC. And I recognize that many of you may not be as familiar with supplier diversity, so I wanted to give you some background. Basically, a diverse supplier is a business owned and operated by an individual or a group that's part of a traditionally underrepresented or underserved group. Supplier diversity programs are a proactive business program which encourages the use of minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned, LGBTQ+ owned, service-disabled and veteran-owned, and other historically underutilized groups. Supplier diversity programs level the playing field for diverse businesses by providing business growth opportunities, particularly in the case of large organizations such as PHMC and its many partnership opportunities. They also address barriers such as access to affordable capital, as well as networking opportunities. And they invest in communities where diverse suppliers reside and serve through job creation, wages, and tax revenues. So why supplier diversity at PHMC? Well, as Richard stated earlier, it's the right thing to do. Plus, it's just good business. But supplier diversity for PHMC is so much more than just a business strategy. It's a critical part of how we support our communities and its members. Poverty and economic disparities are key social determinants of health, and supplier diversity fosters local economic stability in addressing those social determinants of health. So it's not just a business strategy for PHMC, it's a public health imperative, and it's really important to the work that we do. So how are we enhancing this program? We're doing it through a centralized approach, leveraging our vast program services business lines to centralize, coordinate, and strengthen our efforts for a one PHMC buying approach. This ensures consistency in equitable buying practices and opportunities for economies of scale. So by leveraging the resources of the largest public health institute in the country, we'll further empower diverse businesses and impact communities in a meaningful way. So, you know, PHMC, we have an annual collective impact of about $600 million across the region. And 31% of our vendor payments in fiscal year 20, they were paid to minority and women-owned businesses. And our early but modest projections for this current year are about a 10% increase over last year. But we fully anticipate, as we centralize our services and maximize the collective purchasing power across this huge enterprise, that we'll increase that exponentially in subsequent years. We make a significant local buying impact. PHMC has over 70 locations throughout the tri-state area. That presents more opportunities to make an impact in the many communities that we serve. So what's next? Well, first and foremost, we want to partner with all of you, our programs, our subsidiary leaders, procurement and purchasing managers, and those responsible for external partnerships to ensure that we're maximizing our resources and this opportunity. We want to build collaborative relationships with affinity groups, those who represent diverse businesses, to increase partnerships, drive competition, quality, and innovation. And we're excited about the fact that in about a month, we're going to launch a supplier portal. This portal is a place where businesses can register with us. They can receive RFPs and other announcements of opportunities and resources. And, you know, beyond today, you can learn more about what we're doing supplier diversity. On phmc.org, there's actually a page that explains more about this program and the process and the next steps. I just want to acknowledge those who are working on this team from both contracts and procurement. Kathleen Gary, our operations manager, as well as Peter Wise, the expense contract manager. We've been working as a team along with Mike and Celeste and their leadership to really move this forward. So now's the time for today's main event. As we transition to our panel presentation, I want to acknowledge our esteemed panel, led by our esteemed colleague and moderator. You heard a lot about him from Richard, Mike Pearson. I just want to read a little bit about him and give you his bio, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mike, and he'll allow our panelists to introduce themselves. Mike Pearson has a company, private family, and private equity experience as a frontline profit and loss entrepreneurial leadership. His firm specializes in business strategy and operations, advising for-profit and nonprofit C-suite decision makers in a diversity of industries. Mike is widely respected for having more than 24 years of social entrepreneurial experience, driven by his personal ethos of giving back to the community, working to instill those values in the business community. Mike was the founder and CEO of the Philadelphia-based Union Packaging LLC, and he stayed at the top of the helm until he sold the business in May 2019. Mike is also a partner of Ironstone Real Estate Partners. Mike lives by the ethos he preaches, and he instills them through serving on several boards, including those representing the Philadelphia Foundation, the Philadelphia Zoo, most importantly, PHMC, Philadelphia Regional Port Authority, National Council on Crime and Delinquency, William Penn Foundation, and the OIC Philadelphia. And he served formally on countless boards. We'd be here forever reading those names. So we're grateful to Mike for his leadership and his vision in all of this. And I'm going to turn this over to him that he might man the panel. Mike?
Thank you, Marlon. And I hope I can live up to my part, but I know the panelists are going to more than exceed our expectations. And I first want to say, MedWeek 2020. This is PHMC's inaugural event. I look for many more to follow, and it's typically a week where we across the region look at celebrating diverse business. Now, we're going to take 2 minutes, and we're going to allow each panelist in alphabetical order to first self-identify and then talk about the organization, role, and title, and a little bit about how they relate with PHMC. Now, Patricia Claybrook, I have known for many years. She'll start the process. And please, Pat, take the floor and tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Patricia Claybrook, the owner of Jidan Cleaning. A little bit about me. I immigrated from Port of Spain, Trinidad, when I was 6 years old to New York, and that's where I grew up. I started Jidan Cleaning in 2005 as my brainchild. It's named after my 2 daughters, Jillian and Danielle, Jidan Cleaning. We currently have over 140 employees. We're located we have an office in New Jersey, one in Philadelphia, and one in Baltimore. Our mission over the last few years and moving forward is to make a significant impact in the lives of those that we employ, because we've seen how the trajectory of their lives have changed, especially those who were previously incarcerated, right? Or those who just can't seem to find a good job. And so we've seen how that has really made a positive impact on the lives of our employees. So that's our mission, is to help our employees grow and become better citizens. That's a little bit about myself and Jidan Cleaning. I just also want to mention that my better half, Maurice Claybrook, and I have been we've been together for almost 40 years, and
Wow.
he's the other part of Jidan Cleaning.
Thank you, Pat. And again, congratulations, not only on your business success, but the marital bliss. 40 years is a great mark for all of us to hit. With that,
Thank you.
I want to now go to Greg Davis, another individual I've known for many years. And he can tell us a little bit about his company, transitioning as a Drexel engineering major, having an early insurance career, and then making it to entrepreneur. So, Greg, the floor is yours.
All right, well, thank you so much, Mike. I'm pleased to be a part of this. Now, I am having some problems actually hearing the presentation. It's kind of garbled. I thought maybe it was my location, and so I went inside for a second, and that didn't change. So I'm not sure. Hopefully, you guys can hear me clearly. The best spot for me has been outdoors as far as Wi-Fi. So if anyone has any issues hearing me, please raise your hand and let me know. As Mike said, my name is Gregory Davis. I am the owner, president of Vertex Financial Advisors, and a registered investment advisory firm here in Pennsylvania. Specialty is in creating and managing customized investment portfolios for individual clients and for small organizations. Roll IRAs, I would say, are my specialty. I also do retirement plans specifically for individuals to help them to identify what they need to do now to prepare for a nice, lucrative retirement.
Thank you, Greg. We're still struggling a little bit with your audio, but we're going to move on. Next in line is Jeff Hornstein, another individual I'm familiar with outside of this panel. And Jeff, while you're not a vendor of PHMC, it'll be interesting to talk a little bit about your organization as a rival nonprofit and how you interconnect with this panel.
Thanks, Mike. And thanks, Richard, for having me here. I would never consider us a rival of PHMC. We play complementary roles in the ecosystem. So just a few seconds about me. I was born in Brooklyn, grew up in central New Jersey, but I've lived in Philadelphia longer than anywhere else. I'm a recovering academic historian. I quit academia to become a union organizer, did that for about 10 years, then ran for city council, lost, and my consolation prize was to run a policy shop inside city government. I took the helm of the Economy League in February of 2018. The Economy League is the region's think and do tank, supported by largely large nonprofits and the business community. And PHMC is on our board, and my good friend Lauren Nestler holds the PHMC board seat for your organization. I took that job in February of 2018, and one of our missions when I came on and redid our strategic plan was to diversify both our board and our staff. And I'm pleased to say that we increased board diversity tenfold. We had actually one African-American member on our board when I took the helm. Now we have 10. And our staff was basically all white, and now it's more than half people of color. So we're trying to walk the walk. We run an initiative called Philadelphia Anchors for Growth and Equity, which I will talk about later, which is one of our core initiatives to help aggregate demand across institutions. And I would love to talk to PHMC about becoming part of it because you are doing all the right stuff. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Jeff. Emeka, it's your turn now to tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization.
Thanks, Mike. Happy to be here today. My name is Emeka Oguh. I'm the CEO of PeopleJoy, and I want to thank first Marlon, Celeste, and Richard for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. So PeopleJoy pairs human and artificial intelligence to offer high-impact, breakthrough financial wellness solutions to the $1.6 trillion student loan crisis. That includes assistance with public service loan forgiveness, as well as student loan repayment assistance that helps employers attract and retain diverse talent, as well as improve employee productivity. My background started in financial services at Merrill Lynch before the 2008 financial crisis. I started PeopleJoy after I graduated from Harvard Business School, and my wife graduated from medical school with a combined $400,000 in student loans. They say when you're going to start a business, build one that solves your own problem. We're honored to be partners with Public Health Management Corp. in providing their employees with guidance in qualifying for services such as public service loan forgiveness. Because PHMC is a 501c3, all their employees qualify for PSLF, which will forgive your loans tax-free after a period of 10 years. Unfortunately, due to otherwise resolvable application issues, about $6 billion of otherwise forgivable gets unforgiven every year. And our focus is on helping borrowers get that forgiveness and really improve their financial wellness through lower monthly loan payments. Studies have shown that student debt impacts the ability to save for a home and delays starting a family and saving for retirement. So we're really excited to be providing this financial loan solution for PHMC.
Emeka, thank you for that. And we're now going to dive into the questions. If anyone should have a fly randomly land, I will notify you and ask you to shoot or remove it appropriately. The first question, and we're going to continue with this alphabetical order because I'm not that smart. What does inclusive procurement mean to you, Pat? And tell me a little bit about it.
Okay, so inclusive procurement, to me, that means that all minorities have access to the opportunities to provide the goods and services that an organization purchases. So, you know, another way to put that is that minority businesses have the opportunity, they have access. Because to me, that's one of the main issues that we have. When we do find out about an opportunity, usually it's too late. It's too late in the game, too late in the process. So it's making those connections or partnerships that enables us to learn about an opportunity at the beginning and not when it's too late. And then they say, you know, oh, well, we told you, but you already, you know, the process has started and you basically already picked your vendor. So it's all about access.
So if I can paraphrase, it is opening a door and allow you to have access to a process that typically may have been shut off or not accessible to you. Greg, what are your thoughts?
Now, let me know, am I coming in clearer now?
You're excellent in terms of the voice.
I fixed the problem. All right. For me, it's access. My experience has been particularly dealing with non-governmental entities. The supplier function, decisions are made by board members, top executives, and they go with who and what they know. And typically who and what they know do not include people of color, do not include women, do not include LGBTQ+, I think it is. It's just who they know. And in many cases, historically, that has been white males. Inclusion opens the door up for those who don't fit that very narrow profile. I believe that the key to this, though, is to diversify the boards and the executive suite. But the board is really, to me, the key. And I can personally say that's what happened as far as my relationship with PHMC is because of, you know, specifically the executive level, Richard Cohen, and the board, and Michael Pearson. So it worked with Vertex Financial Advisors. I believe it can be replicated in other organizations, and it should be used as a model for other organizations. Thank
you, Greg. Emeka, you shared a story, and I'm going to skip Jeff because I want him to close on this question. Emeka, you had some heavy paper that you had to pay for, impressive paper, which alone would not open doors for you. Can you tell me how supplier diversity has extended opportunities?
Yeah, so for me, supply diversity and inclusive procurement is about reducing the barriers for diverse businesses to win business, and also spurs economic growth. If you look at U.S. firms, I think something like 99% of U.S. firms are in the small business category. Women and minorities represent more than half of the total small business population, and they're the fastest growing segments. However, in aggregate, they generate less than 10% of the overall total revenue. So it's about leveling the playing field and essentially giving opportunities to really reflect the diverse workforce, the diverse country that we live in. And for me, it's, like you mentioned, the expensive paper, and I think it was mentioned earlier with other panelists, it's about, people are comfortable. They're going to hire and work with who they know and who looks like them. It's about making sure that we're opening the doors for opportunities to invest in new ideas, new thoughts. This is with entrepreneurship, with startups, taking a risk with companies that could potentially introduce new ideas or new ways to improve your competitiveness on the marketplace. And that to me is really what's been essential. Essentially working with supply diversity groups and leaders who are essentially looking for opportunities like this to offer new programs within their businesses.
Thank you. Jeff, I saved you for last on this question because I wanted an institutional definition, how you yourself define inclusive procurement with your organization as the chief executive officer.
So for the way we look at it, Mike, is that inclusive procurement is about using the leverage of purchasing, which is a great lever because it's what an organization normally does, right? We buy stuff to help build wealth in historically marginalized communities, right? I mean, 500 years of structural racism have left particularly Black-owned firms way behind in terms of access to contracts and capital and advantage. I had a very frustrating conversation a few months ago with a major institutional leader who will go nameless, at least for now, talking about shifting some of their spend to some local Black-owned firms in a couple different sectors. And their response was, well, we have long-standing relationships with these other vendors. And I said, yeah, and they didn't let Jews into Harvard for a very long time either. That doesn't mean it's right, right? That's exactly the point, is having the courage and the leadership to break these so-called long-standing relationships. And exactly what Greg just said, this is a country that in a few years will no longer be majority white. This country is built on immigrant and people of color labor from day one, and much of the value of that labor has been stolen. So it is hundreds and hundreds of years past time for us to work together to level this playing field and to use the levers we have to create wealth. That's why I'm in this game. It's great to have some small family-run businesses, but I think, as Emeka pointed out, we have so many small firms. We need to create scalable, tradable businesses. And I can talk more about the strategy we've been employing to do that later. But that's the key here, is to try and figure out how to use these institutional levers to create scalability.
Thank you, Jeff. Earlier, we heard Richard and Marlon eloquently talk about why supplier diversity as a program was important at PHMC. Now we want to know, A, how has it benefited your organization? And B, how has it changed your business? So Pat, can you start with that, please?
Of course, Mike. So, I went back and looked at when we started our partnership with PHMC. And that was 7 years ago, in 2013, with the opening of Rising Sun Healthcare Center. So in the last 7 years, we started out with a single contract. Fast forward to 2020, which has allowed us to this year to be awarded a larger contract that encompasses over 25 locations. So it has enabled us to put in systems and processes internally to meet PHMC's needs. 7 years ago, Jidan Cleaning could not provide service to an organization that had, over 25 locations that were cleaning today. So because of this, PHMC's program, it has allowed us to scale, but it also has prepared us to take advantage of other growth opportunities, the same way that we are providing services to PHMC.
Thank you. Greg, let's hear from you now.
I've been dealing with, in a relationship with PHMC now for about 6 years maybe, and providing the financial education to the employees. What that has provided me specifically, my firm, because as a registered investment advisor, this is a relationship business. You need to meet people, to identify their problems and help them to resolve their problems. And so PHMC, being a huge organization, allows me to have access to these individuals, these employees, allowing me to identify their problems and provide solutions to those problems. And what happens after you develop those kind of relationships, people become very comfortable with you. And so employees who have left from the employee of PHMC have decided automatically to pick up the phone or email and say, Greg, would you be willing to handle my finances since I've left from PHMC? So I have a number of existing clients who were former PHMC employees, and they've been really successful relationships ever since. The other positive that I would suggest is the fact that PHMC has a wonderful positive name in this region. And so for me to be able to say that I am providing the employee education for the employees of PHMC is a feather in my cap. And I thank PHMC for allowing me the opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Greg. Emeka, you're on the floor again.
Yeah, I want to just echo everything that Greg mentioned. PHMC has not only given us an opportunity to really grow our business and provide value to their employees, they've also paid it forward in subsidizing our benefit for their employees. And so anybody who comes in and works with PeopleJoy gets a free student loan assessment. And if they decide to board with us, PHMC actually subsidizes half of the initial fee. What that does relative to companies that don't offer subsidization is we actually see a 3x utilization rate. That means we're able to help 3 times as many people at PHMC because of that subsidization. And we're now using that model, that formula, when we're going out and talking with employers. More and more employers are adopting that model because they see the benefit of an employer subsidy to reduce the fees for their employees and help more people. So they've not only helped us by opening doors and helping us grow our business, they're also helping their employees. They're helping their employees with these financial wellness initiatives that we're offering to get access to more people who may otherwise have decided or may not been able to cover the benefit.
Thank you. Before we get back to Jeff, we're going to have one other question for PHMC vendors. And we talk about community impact. And we also talk about how not just PHMC, but other organizations have allowed your businesses to extend that impact. Pat, can we talk a little bit about that community impact?
Most definitely. So for us, partnering with PHMC is a definite community impact in that we employ individuals from the same communities that we provide services to. So for example, one of my employees went into one of your locations, a clinic, the other day. He does not work at that clinic, but he realized that we provide service to that clinic, and he is a patient at that clinic. So right away he's looking around, looking at what he could do better. But anyway, the impact for Jidan Cleaning as far as the communities that we serve, we provide service to those communities that PHMC serves. So it's the same community. If we service a location, it's a rule that the cleaning staff at that location live within 30 minutes of that location. And so that's how we're impacting the communities that PHMC serves.
Thank you. And a job is an incredible thing. It can
Yes, it is.
folks to do many things. And Greg, would you take a moment to share your thoughts on community impact?
It's a little more complex for me and what I do as an investment advisor, but one area where I could specifically state would be, again, going back to former PHMC employees who have decided to hire me as their investment advisor. And these individuals, many of them are focused on responsible investing, sharing their knowledge with those in their extended community. And I've seen a lot of that, particularly from former PHMC employees. It just says something about their mindset, where they have referred me to their network. And they have said, you need to consider hiring Vertex Financial Advisors, because this firm is focused not just on developing wealth. This firm is focused on making responsible, or helping you to make responsible investments. So that would be my specific example, I would say, of the community impact of PHMC. It's a little not direct, it's indirect, but it still have to give some credit to PHMC.
Well, your community impact also helps create wealth by tutoring and nurturing knowledge. And Emeka also is steeped in that thought. We create Black wealth, and that's something where we've lagged in, and is important. And so much about creating wealth so that we can have stable communities, and it's important. And we sometimes leave out of the diversity, equity, inclusion discussion. And Emeka, you're going to bring us home on this question.
I think one key thing you've seen is around this, and Greg kicked it off with this wealth creation. So how do you create wealth? It's employment, it's investing, it's paying off debt, which is removing the barriers to investing, to buying a home. It's asset building. And so when I look at sort of the impact and what we can do in the community, it's how can I be involved in all these things directly or indirectly? So first and foremost, by helping reduce the debt or restructuring your debt on the student loan side, that frees up capital so that you can put more money towards your 403B or 401k, work with folks such as Greg to really look at your financial future. It reduces the financial stress that you're bringing to the workforce, so you're a more productive employee. In light of the murder of George Floyd, one of the things that I started really focus on was, what can I do for PeopleJoy as a platform to generate awareness on things that employers can do to help improve, reduce the wealth gap. And one of the ways to reduce the wealth gap is employment, giving folks access to good paying jobs and pathways to increase promotions within those organizations. So one of the things that we did in light of the murder of George Floyd, and one of the things we're able to do with obviously the revenue that we generate from companies such as PHMC, was we offered our services for free to 2 HBCU graduates at each of the different businesses that we worked with. So part of it was obviously to give folks who have student loans and have graduated from HBCUs access to our services. But the other part was to generate awareness of the importance of hiring HBCU graduates to these employers, so they could look within those organizations and ask the question, have I hired anybody who worked at an HBCU? And if not, maybe I should. So really, it's using our tools and what we do and provide, and the revenue that we generate to give it back to the community and help promote economic empowerment through those different areas of employment, wealth building, and debt pay down.
Thank the three of you for insightful answers on that issue. And now we're going to take a moment to reflect upon Jeff and the Economy League on a rather unique initiative called the PAGE program. And he's leveling the playing field and needs assistance and cooperation from many large nonprofits besides PHMC to make this thing work. Jeff, what is it and how can we help?
Thanks, Mike. So I should say I'm pinch hitting tonight, this evening, for the director of our Philadelphia Anchors for Growth and Equity, or PAGE program, Janelle Lawrence. She can't be in two places at one time, as fabulous as she is. She's on another MetaWeek panel right now. We were thrilled to hire her away from corporate supplier diversity this past February. She spent years with AstraZeneca and Chemours building supplier diversity programs, so she's a real pro. So I'm really second fiddle here. But PAGE is about building a shared citywide and eventually regional cadre of supply chain professionals across major institutions to aggregate their demand, create business opportunity, and grow jobs. Again, the goal is to create scalable businesses that can trade outside of our region. We want them to import dollars and export stuff. So it's sort of import substitution economics at the hyper-local level. And we also are starting to help build business capacity and facilitate access to capital. So let me unpack this for a second with a very concrete example. Harold Epps is the co-chair of our PAGE advisory committee, along with Maria Roberts of MFR Consultants, two great business leaders in this town. And you know, Harold and I live at opposite ends of Center City. I'm in Northern Liberties, he's in Washington Square. And in early June, helicopters were flying over both of our houses as the unrest was unfolding in the streets. And Harold, in his inimitable way, texted me at 4:30 in the morning and said, "We must do something now." When Harold Epps says that, you jump. So I immediately put together a pledge for all of our anchor institutions, all of our big hospitals and universities. That's where we started this work, and said, we need to do better. Then I realized the chamber had its own pledge coming out, so decided to go a different route. And what we did was pull together a procurement roundtable of C-suite procurement directors on August 12th. It was a private meeting with Penn, Drexel, Penn Medicine, CHOP, Comcast, Independence, Aramark, Jefferson, PICO, and Temple. Essentially more than $30 billion in purchasing power, annual purchasing power in one room. And Harold kicked off the meeting by saying, here's where we make the chamber's equity pledge real. And our concrete outcome from that event was a series of individual spend shift plans. So we got each institution to give us a 1-year snapshot of what they spend in 20 categories that we had predetermined, that we had some Black and Brown owned business capacity already in the Philadelphia area. So they gave us $2 billion worth of procurement data. We crunched the numbers. Lo and behold, only about 11.6% of the spend in those 20 categories was done with diverse firms, less than 25% with local firms. So huge opportunity to put some quick wins on the board. So we've been working with those companies. Janelle and her team have been doing these individual spend shift plans. We're going to roll them up into one document that we'll be able to share publicly about the commitment these institutions have made to shift spend to local Black and Brown owned firms. But if it were easy, it would have happened already, right? So part of our challenge is that a lot of the firms, even some of our A-list firms, Scotland Yard Security, Team Clean, EMSCO, they are already strapped for capital. So the impact investing community has partnered with us. We just won a large and very competitive federal grant to build an impact investing hub that's tied to PAGE. So as companies get new opportunities, Independence, and I'll say this to you guys, Independence has already decided to shift 30% of its annual security spend to a local Black-owned security firm. That firm's going to need working capital to hire 50 new employees immediately, right? And they could go to a bank and borrow it, or a CDFI, but we've got impact investors lined up to help them finance that scale up. I think, Patricia, you've been involved with the janitorial consortium that some of the impact investors have mobilized capital for.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a capital piece, but there's also the technical assistance piece. So Ernst & Young is about to launch a 10-city pilot called through their Entrepreneur Access Network. That's going to be a wraparound kind of consulting service pro bono for 10 firms in each of these 10 cities. And we're going to be partnering with them on that to get 10 of our PAGE businesses in that program. The applications close October 14th. And that's going to just include incredible consulting services. We're also working with CEO Think Tank, thanks to Mike, to develop a page prep program specifically designed to help firms thrive in institutional supply chains, because we think that this is one great path and lever to actually scaling these businesses. And right now we're just laser focused on Black and brown owned firms, because we think that is where the real racial wealth gap is, and frankly, where there are a lot of small businesses that some subset of which want to scale and want to grow. Where PHMC can help, of course, would be to join our effort, would be to have your procurement leads join with the folks from Penn and Drexel and CHOP and Temple, and we meet quarterly. It's an incredible learning community where each institution kind of competes with each other to see who can do better. We're standardizing best practices across the sector. We're making change. We're getting companies like Aramark to do things differently than they've done them in the past. It's a really exciting moment for us. Things are really starting to happen behind the scenes that I think are going to create some good change in the next couple of years. So I'll stop
Thanks,
there.
Jeff.
Entertain any questions or whatever folks might have.
I appreciate that detailed report on page. And it's a perfect segue to our next question, which, Pat, if you may, we talk about these very trying times. Earlier, Emeka mentioned George Floyd and what it's generated. How has this discussion and the conversation been extended? And I know Jeff covered just a bit of that in his reaction, but what have you seen on the street, so to speak?
And it starts with the conversation, right? You know, it started like what Jeff said, that Harold texted him at 4:30 in the morning. It says, we have to do something now. You know, I found that more and more people are, say over the last 3 or 4 months, we're talking more about, you know, Black Lives Matter. We're talking more about inclusion. And so what we all have to realize is that there are different ways to engage, right? That the conversation is leading to folks looking at us. I mean, us meaning minority companies, businesses, Black and brown owners of businesses, looking at us differently. That it's not one size fits all, right? But for me, I believe that it starts with the conversation.
Thank you. Greg, can you tell us a little bit about how this conversation on DEI has been extended?
I've seen personally, as Pat was suggesting, more conversations. Key leadership and organizations across the nation have now had their eyes opened up. Those eyes should have been opened up before, but the protests have definitely got their attention. And they feel a need to do something in a positive fashion. The problem, though, is they don't know exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not having a conversation and saying we have to do something. And this is because the conversations, the relationships were not developed for years and years and years and years. You've had these executives, these board members who've been living in their little cocoons. They have not been exposed to the majority of the activities of people in this country. And so now they're saying we got a problem, and they don't really know who to talk to help them to develop solutions. So yes, it's good. The conversations are starting, but if you don't go beyond that and include, you know, people like myself and Patricia and Emeka and yourself as well, Mike, in those conversations, nothing will come of this conversation going forward at all. So you're going to have to, you know, take it to another level and get input from those people who are primarily affected by what's happening in this country.
Emeka, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think just echoing what everybody else said, and I think businesses and business leaders are starting to get what I've noticed, with everything happening this year. They're starting to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that's a good thing, because when you're uncomfortable, that creates adversity, and that creates conversations. As Pat mentioned, I look at it. One of my friends mentioned to me recently, adversity is just advice disguised. And as we go through it, as we go through those uncomfortable conversations, we'll start to form solutions. It's not going to be an overnight change. And I don't think, it took 500 years to get here. It's not going to take, we're not going to be done in 6 to 12 months. But I think having those conversations and companies being comfortable with having those uncomfortable conversations and asking themselves, do we really have a diverse supplier group? Are we doing the best in how we hire and who we recruit and how we promote internally? Because a lot of companies can hire, don't necessarily have pathways to upward mobility within those corporate organizations. Companies are starting to have those conversations. And I think as entrepreneurs and CEOs, it's on us to also help guide them or provide suggestions, as Greg mentioned, if folks have not had that background or familiarity with it, bringing forward those different ideas. That's one of the reasons why we introduced the HBCU promotion that we did, because we wanted to get folks down that path of, okay, you recruit, but does the school that you recruit at have Black and brown students? In what capacity? Because if you're going to the wrong schools, of course you're not getting people of color to bring into your organization. So really, that's where we're doing our part as well, to sort of introduce ideas and suggestions, put things on the table, so that contributing to those uncomfortable conversations. And I think it's been really good. What I've noticed over the last few months is being able to have those conversations. I've had them at a much higher frequency than I've had in prior years.
Thank you. I think Jeff did a great job of addressing some of this, so I want him to start with our final question. And Jeff, how do small and diverse businesses bring innovation and creativity to big businesses? And before you answer, I'll start with the anecdote. NASA realized when they were hiring just men that until they added women, they didn't have a level of creativity and problem solving that helped them take on very complex problems with innovation. How does that relate to organizations being involved in a supply chain of larger businesses?
Look, I mean, the research is incontrovertible on this, right? Diversity leads to better outcomes, period, end of sentence, right? I have this struggle inside of my own organization. I have, I am a pretty open-minded / chaotic / emotional kind of leader. I'm not into details. I have a COO who's very into details, and that leads to some friction sometimes. But as we've diversified our staff, like we've both had to learn new ways of thinking and new ways of doing. Our leadership exchange this year is going to be fantastic, because we hired a young woman who had never run a program like this before to completely rethink it. She happens to be a Nigerian American immigrant, and she's doing a fantastic job, just like blowing us away with her creativity. So we're trying to build a team that is diverse in all the best ways. We use a lot of management tools to figure out how to manage each other and how to interact with each other in ways that are respectful. I'm not a believer that you shouldn't have conflict in an organization as long as you do it without violence. I'm kind of a student of Charles Rajman in that way. Like we all need to learn how to fight fair and fight well in ways that are productive. So I don't know if this is answering your question exactly, but diversity is coming, and we could either embrace it and make it, core to what we do, or we can try and fight it, but it's a losing battle.
Thank you. In the remaining moments of this program, I'm going to ask the other panelists to be concise, because I want to leave some time for you to, again, talk about your organization and how we can get a hold of your website, et cetera. So Pat, will you follow up on that question? And we'll move from Greg, and then Emeka will close out this question.
Okay, so how do small, diverse businesses bring innovation and creativity in a way that big businesses can't? I think small, diverse businesses are more personal. We tend to see barriers as opportunities, where big businesses usually want you to adjust to them, that they're so structured that they can't be as flexible, where we tend to be more nimble.
With that nimbleness, Greg, how do you help a larger organization innovate?
Customization. I mean, what Pat said is absolutely correct. I have the ability to relate to employees in a manner that large institutions such as, Wells Fargo, I shouldn't be naming names, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway. Wells Fargo, Vanguards of the world, they're giving cookie cutter solutions to problems that individuals have that just aren't relatable. And the fact that I'm local, I'm a Philly guy, I'm dealing with people who in many cases are from Philadelphia, I'm dealing with people working in a nonprofit sector who are not wealthy. So a wealth manager is not going to be able to relate to someone who's not wealthy. So I can, however. And so I'm giving real practical solutions to the employees who I meet with. And that's a credit to the fact that I am small and nimble and diverse.
All right. Emeka, you talked about a little bit about this in terms of the HBCU being a solution that someone else would not have thought of. What are other ways that you innovate for your customers?
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned before about solving complex problems. We're a startup, and having come from a large organization with 65,000 employees to an organization of 10, I can tell you that a startup success is measured by how well it identifies a problem and then matches it to a solution. If you match the problem with a solution, you're then going to be rewarded with business and ultimately revenue and profitability. Corporations, on the other hand, are once you're mature, your measurement of success is profitability. So you're less likely to introduce new solutions and take that risk because you're not going to see the reward immediately. And so what small businesses can do is we can take that risk. We can provide that unorthodox solution or creative solution and introduce that to you so that you can work with that and actually introduce new opportunities for your business. We're able to take risk because we're smaller. So
thank you. We're up against the clock. And again, I want to take 20 seconds. Pat, your company, how can they contact you?
Jidan Cleaning, 609-714-0426 or 267-233-5050. Pat at jidancleaning.com.
All right, Greg.
Gregory Davis, Vertex Financial Advisors, number is 215-873-4791. My email address is greg@vertexpa.com. Or, as many of those of you who are watching this who are PHMC employees know, you can always just contact HR and they'll put you.
All right, excellent. We got to go to you, Emeka.
Yeah, so it's PeopleJoy.com, 1-800-653-1812. You can email me at Emeka@PeopleJoy.com. If you want a free student loan assessment, you can go to myed.PeopleJoy.com. It's in the chat. Thank you.
Jeff, bring it home.
Best way to get in touch with us is at www.economyleague.org, and my email address is jhornstein@economyleague.org. I'm extremely responsive to email.
All right. I want to thank my panelists, but I also, before we close, I want to thank Kathy Gary, Marlon Williams, Celeste Collins, Lauren Nessler, and Patty Griffin. Those are some of the folks from HR and communications that helped put this together. Hopefully PHMC, as a handful of socially conscious major nonprofits, are not playing this along, and we can help push the discussion and other opportunities for folks to grow. Thank you all, and that closes us out for MedWeek 2020.
Mike Pearson is the best.
All right. Yeah, I just want to thank Mike. We want to thank Mike for moderating the discussion and for his ongoing leadership and championing this initiative here at PHMC. We certainly want to extend our thanks to all of our panelists. And we want to thank everyone for attending the session. And we know that through partnership, both internally and externally, we're all going to work together to transform our communities. So thank everybody and have a wonderful afternoon.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard, for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Really appreciate it. Great job. Awesome.
Richard.
Go get them. Take care. Be well.